Today we are going to look at a man who had a huge impact on Christianity. Seriously, pastors reference this guy and his work so often from the pulpit. Scholars make use of his work. Even Christian novel writers or movie presenters read up on his works to get a better understanding of the historical and cultural and geographical context of things of the Old Testament and New Testament in the Bible. And this guy's name is Flavius Josephus. Today we are going to look at the life of Flavius Josephus. We are going to look at his impact, his life story, and his books. Let's get started. So let's start with the impact that he had. So Flavius Josephus has the greatest extra-biblical source for New Testament history, meaning he didn't write a book in the Bible, he's not a character in the Bible, but his works complement the things in the Bible to help you understand the cultural and historical setting of things in the Bible, because he wrote in that time historical information. Commentaries, Bible commentaries make use of this guy's works. New Testament history books like this one by F.F. Bruce, they make use of his writings primarily to understand that historical context and to make it clear for us. And pastors often refer to his works either directly by reading him or by reading books that read his works again. And his works was translated into English in 1732 by William Weston, and the English translation became the very, very popular work, and for a time this was the book that most Christians owned besides the Bible. This guy's impact, from his books we get insight on things like the Maccabees and the Hasmonean dynasty. The Maccabees was the period just before the Bible, the New Testament, where the Greeks ruled the world and forced the Israelites to worship their gods, and the Maccabees stood up and then they started their own kingdom, the Hasmonean dynasty, and then Herod the Great took over from them and started the Herodian dynasty. And so we learn about that period just before the New Testament that really gives rise to so many practices in the New Testament itself. We learn about Herod the Great and how he rose to power and his temple. Very interesting how an Edomite would rule over the Jews and work for the Romans. And so we learn that historical context from Josephus's works. We also learn about Jewish sects like the Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, and Zealots. We get so much extra information so we can paint a picture of these guys so we understand better when Jesus dealt with them. We also get a better idea of the Jewish high priests of the day and why they were so corrupt, and why, for example, the Essenes went and separated themselves and started the Qumran community where we find the Dead Sea Scrolls from, right? Also, Quirinius' census that made Joseph and Mary go to Bethlehem where they then got the baby. And also Pontius Pilate, who this guy was, and John the Baptist, extra information, James the Just, one of the apostles, Jesus, we even have extra information. And we also get information on things of the Old Testament, although at times it is harder to know, is this a legend that came among the Jews, because as we will see, Josephus was a Jew himself, or was this actual facts and they just got extra information that they want to share and they preserved in other circles. Now let's look next at Flavius Josephus' life story, and you'll see it's much different than just a normal Jew, as I expected at least. So we see that Flavius Josephus was born in 37 AD, so about 40 years after Jesus, in a wealthy family in Jerusalem. His father was a priest from high priestly descendancy, and his mother was a descendant from the Hasmonean family, that kingly family who ruled. So great wealth. And because of that, he could also obviously be educated, and he was a Jew, so he really believed the Bible to be true and was interpreted and had that Jewish mindset. And also, many scholars believe that he was a Pharisee from a young age, like the age of 19 already. And, the Pharisees held to a special worldview and certain practices. And we made another video on the Pharisees. If you want more information to understand how we would think about that, you can check it out after this video. But yeah, so he was a Pharisee, but he was also brave. At the age of about 25, he went to Emperor Nero. Now, you remember Nero was an evil guy. He burned Jerusalem and burned Rome, and he burned many Christians. But he went to Nero and he negotiated that he would please release some Jewish priests. So very brave in that sense. But then upon his return, Rome had declared war against Israel. And so he headed the forces of the Jews in Galilee against Rome. And so he was a brave soldier in that sense. But then, interestingly, he and his men, they were captured in a cave and they lost the war. And he then suggested for his men, instead of surrendering, they should commit collective suicide. And he actually said that they should draw lots and then kill themselves one by one with the sword. And then after 38 of the men killed themselves, only Josephus and one other guy was still alive. They didn't do it, and instead they surrendered to Vespasian's army, who was the general who led the attack against the Jews. And so some would call him a traitor of his own people for that. And then we see that Flavius Vespasian, who headed the forces against the Jews and who captured Josephus, started actually to like Josephus. And he started to like him so much over time that he gave him his family name, Flavius. And that's where the name Flavius Josephus comes from. So, and the reason why I liked him so much was, one, because he was a learned man, but also, two, because Josephus prophesied. He called himself a prophet, and he said that Vespasian will be the next emperor, and Josephus will be like his right-hand man, a very, a self-elevating prophecy to really save himself. But Vespasian believed him, and Vespasian then did become emperor, and so Vespasian really helped Josephus to be a prophet and treated him very well for that. Josephus then assisted Vespasian's son, Titus, who became the next emperor, to siege Jerusalem. And once again, why some would call him a traitor for that, working with the Romans to siege Jerusalem. And the Roman emperors then, because he helped them, they funded Josephus's writing from 75 AD. And talking about Josephus's writing, let's talk about some of his writings which made that big impact, even if though you've never read some of his works. So the first work that he wrote was in 75 AD, the Jewish War. Okay, the Jewish War, and obviously it comes with many different publishers published it in different fashions. Okay, it's a 7-volume work, and in it he describes the history from the rise of the Maccabees to the fall of Jerusalem. So he really wrote close to that time a 7-volume work of that history from the Maccabees, that small group just before the New Testament started, to the fall of Jerusalem, 70 AD. In it, he blames the Jewish wars on what he calls unrepresentative and overzealous Jewish fanatics. So he says the Jews fighting against the Romans, there was just a few fanatic Jews. It wasn't the main core, the mainstream representative of all the Jews. And so he tries to gain the Jews some favor again in the eyes of the Romans, which, makes him less of a traitor again. Okay. His second work was Antiquities of the Jews. It's a 21-volume work, so it's a really massive work. And in it, he describes world history from a Jewish perspective, from creation to his present day. And in it, he taught that Abraham taught science to the Egyptians, who in turn taught the Greeks. And he said that Moses set up a senatorial priestly aristocracy who resisted the king. So some of it might be myth, and some of it might be actual accurate stories that were just preserved in the Jewish circles and that came out now to the world. Okay. We also find a third work, Flavius Josephus against the Greeks, or against Apion, against the Greeks. It's a 2-volume work, and in it he defends that Judaism is a better religion and philosophy than the Greek religion, just mainly because it was first, right? And his final work was The Life of Flavius Josephus, which is an autobiography in which he indicated, and very interesting, that he believed polygamy was permitted, so something that came out there. Now, my recommendations for you is, if you are a scholar, then you have to read this guy, and I'll place some links of his books in the description box. You need to read him if you are a scholar. But for the rest of the people, I would suggest read a book that read him and made it a little bit easier. For example, F.F. Bruce's work, New Testament History. And then if you really don't want to just go and read, then check out our other videos, which also made use of these other resources on the Pharisees and the Sadducees, scribes and Sanhedrin. We made videos on that, so you don't have to go and read for yourself, but you can still, and we'll place a link to this other book even in the description box. But go and read, listen to those videos and just gain a better understanding of the New Testament, helped by the works of Flavius Josephus. And with that, we are saying thank you for watching. Please click on this button over here to subscribe to our channel. And also, well, we'll put a link over here for our New Testament history playlist. And so click on it and then see if there are some videos and some topics that will intrigue you to watch next. Thank you for watching. God bless.